Hi, my name is Abhishek Rai and I work for BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management product. In the first part of CLM PaaS provisioning for Docker series, we talked about the steps to configure public PaaS provider, public PaaS proxy provider, and a user to connect to Docker daemon running on the Docker host. In this part, we'll be talking about Docker resources that are used for public PaaS provisioning, and later we'll be configuring a single tier service blueprint. The plan is to prepare the resources and discuss the set of steps for creating single tier service blueprint for a public PaaS services, which includes onboard PaaS resources, mapping tenants to the logical data centers, creating a single tier service blueprint. Once you're done with this configuration, BMC Cloud Lifecycle Management can use the designated resources while PaaS is provisioned. Single tier service blueprint will be ready for a public PaaS service. During the demo, we will be preparing resources. We will map tenants to the logical data centers. We'll also talk about setting up a single tier service blueprint for PaaS service. Let's switch to Cloud Admin Console and take a look at the configuration. Okay, I'm on the Cloud Lifecycle Management console and I've logged in as Cloud Admin user and I'm under the Network Container Quick Link. To prepare the Docker resources that are used for public PaaS provisioning, we must onboard the public PaaS logical data centers. Click on this icon to onboard a logical data center. From the provider section, select your public PaaS provider. From proxy provider drop-down menu, select your proxy provider configured for Docker. And from account, select your user. And from the available logical data center, select the resource and click on add and click onboard. Okay, so the request has been completed and we have got our logical data center. The next step is to map your tenant to this logical data center. For that, click on this icon and map your tenants. So select your tenants from this list and click add. Click on save button. Okay, so once that is done, let's switch to Service Designer workspace and create a single tier service blueprint for Docker PaaS provisioning. So Service Designer, click on that. Okay, I'm in a Service Designer workspace. The Service Designer workspace offers considerable flexibility when defining a blueprint. Let's go ahead and create a blueprint for PaaS. So click create new service blueprint and from here click on PaaS resources. Click on PaaS resources and on the right hand side you can see the instance details. Few of the details are pre-populated with the values. Okay, let's talk about it. So for a provider definition, select public PaaS from the drop down menu. For proxy provider definition, select public PaaS Docker. So as of now, I've got only one proxy provider. This is the values are pre-populated. Just in case you have multiple, you need to click on drop down and select a specific one. Type for Docker will be application container. The subtype will be Docker. Select the addition of the PaaS resources. This field is not applicable for Docker. You can leave it as it is. Version. Select the version of the PaaS resources. Again, this field is not applicable. Description could be anything. For memory size, this field is not used. The memory size is taken from the parameters. IR type, select the installable resource type. For Docker, you can select none. Let's talk about parameters. Parameters are an important part of setting up service blueprint for public PaaS provisioning with Docker. Parameters allow for user input that override default behavior during the provisioning processes. So let's click on it. We have got pre-populated parameters for Docker. Before I talk about each parameters, let's talk about the image which I'm going to configure in this service blueprint. So the image which I'm going to use is Nginx. So let's switch to Docker Hub and let's talk about few of parameters of this image. Okay, I'm on a Docker Hub. So let's search for my image. So it's Nginx. And I'm going to use this image. So it has got repository. So this section called repository and this one called installable resource, or you can call it as image. Let's click on detail. Okay, so it looks like it doesn't have the description and it doesn't have the commands and environment variables to configure. Let's click on tags and see the version of this image. So the version of this image is latest. So the tag is which is being used for this image is latest. Let's switch back to Cloud Admin Console and talk about parameters. So let's select the first parameter, command to run. Click on edit. The description says that command to run is specified as a string or comma separated string. So as we have seen on Docker Hub that my image doesn't carry any of the commands to be run. So I'll keep the value blank. Just in case you would like to use it to provide the commands at the time of submitting the request, you can select this checkbox and click OK. CPU shares. So let's select that and click edit. With CPU shares, you can specify the CPU shares for the containers. It specifies the relative weight versus other containers. So I'll go with the default values and I'll select this checkbox. Click OK. Select Docker image tag and click edit button. Docker image tag specifies the version tag for the Docker image. So as we have seen, my image going to have latest as a tag. So I'll have this value over here. I'll also select this checkbox, click OK. Docker registry. Docker registry specifies the Docker registry. For example, for private images on Docker Hub, specify registry.hub.docker.com. For private registry, specify the fully qualified hostname :port. For public Docker images, you can leave this parameter empty. As my image is a public Docker image, I'll keep this value empty, but I'll also select this checkbox, click OK. Docker repository namespace. This specifies the repository namespace of the Docker. So for example, this portion is the repository as I talked about earlier, and this portion is my installable resource or image. Let's switch back, and I'll also select this checkbox, click OK. Docker repository password. Specify the password to log on to the repository. As I'm going to have the image from the public Docker Hub, I'll keep this empty. Docker repository username. Specify the username to log on to the repository. As I'm going to use public image from Docker Hub, I'll have this empty, but I'll also select this checkbox. Click OK. Domain name. A string value containing the desired domain name to use for the container. So you can have any type of string over here for your container. So I'll go with xyz.com. I'll have this checkbox enabled as well. Environment variables. Let's click on edit button and take a look. So list of environment variables. For only one environment variable, it can be specified as var is equal to value. For multiple environment variables, the format is -e var is equal to value, and then -e var1 is equal to value1. As my image doesn't have any environment variable, I'll have this field empty, but I'll have the checkbox enabled as well. Exposed port. So this specifies the list of local ports to be exposed outside the container in the format port1 semicolon port2. So I'll have it as a port of my container, and I'll have this checkbox enabled as well. Host name could be anything. Installable resource, again, it's the name of my image. So I'll go ahead and type my image name over here. Links generally get used when you have got multi-tier service blueprint, and here is a description. It says that a list of links for the container. Each link entry should be the following format: name of the resource set 1 colon alias 1 and name of the resource 2 colon alias 2. As I'm going to have single tier blueprint, I'll have this field blank. Memory could be anything. Port bindings. So before that, let's talk about publish all ports. So the description says allocate a random host port for all of a container's exposed port, and it's true or false. So just in case you like to bind a specific port from the host with the exposed port of the containers, then you can keep it as false. I can have user entry enable as well for this. And this one is port bindings. So the description says that a map of exposed container ports and the host port, they should map to in the format of port1 colon host port1. I'll go ahead and bind the container port with the host port. So I'll have value like container port colon host port. So I'll have 9443. Okay, and I will have user entry enabled as well. Click OK. The volume is, so the description says for that, an object mapping mount point paths inside the container to empty objects, and then expected format is /alias 0 semicolon /alias 1 colon /value 1. I'm not going to define anything over here. Just in case you would like to, you can define in this format. So adc init.d, and you can have user entry enabled as well. Click OK. Once you're done with configuring all the parameters, you can click on save and give the name of your blueprint. So let's say docker nginx, click OK. And then you can check in your service blueprint. In case you would like to define an existing tag, you can have it, else you can create a new one. So I'll go ahead and type docker and nginx. That's your blueprint tag. Click OK. In the next part, we will review the configuration of a multi-tier service blueprint for PaaS services. I hope this video was informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for watching this.